The Utah legislative session kicks off today, sending the state capitol into a whirlwind.
Well, that's for sure. ABC4's Lindsay Aerts is live at the Capitol covering the beginning of the session, the marathon that it will be. Hey, Lindsay.
Hey, Brian and Sarah, it's good to be with you. Yeah, today was a lot of pomp and circumstance here at the state capitol. Some jokes, some seriousness, some actual work done, some bills passed in the House and the Senate. So we'll get to some of those details in a minute. You know, lawmakers this session, they want to tackle a lot of things like energy production, things like higher education, possibly some cuts there, some reallocations as they're calling it. They also want to tackle some of the state's election processes. Now, I caught up with State Senator Mike McKell, a member of Senate leadership, on what the Senate and the Utah legislature is planning with elections. I want to welcome in State Senator Mike McKell, who represents the Spanish Fork area. Senator, you're kind of spearheading elections for your caucus. Yeah. Talk to me about what does Utah need to fix when it comes to our election system?
So right now, I think we have a really good election system. So when you say, what do we need to fix? Do we need to overhaul our election system? No, we don't need to overhaul our election system. There's broad support for mail-in voting. There have been some concerns with security, making sure that we validate, we make sure that the right person is voting. We did have some ballots that cross state lines, and there are some of the edges of our voting that we do need to look at. But as far as what do we need to fix, are you going to see a big comprehensive overhaul of our election system? I don't think we need to do that. I think the polling is really clear that we're doing a really good job.
So that means we're not getting rid of vote by mail. We're not going to make you opt in to vote by mail, any of those proposals.
Well, I think we're going to look at proposals throughout the 45-day session. But one thing that's clear to me is the folks I meet with, when I meet with my colleagues, most of my colleagues support vote by mail. And I think there's broad support in the state for vote by mail. So do I envision a scenario where vote by mail goes away? I don't.
So this issue of checking ID at some point along the process, the Speaker is pretty certain that he wants that to happen. At what point in the process does that need to happen?
I think it's important for us to look at the logistics of that. And that if we can improve by checking ID when you drop off your ballot, or you have an opt-in process where you opt in to vote by mail, and we verify your ID at that point, I think it makes sense to look at that, vet that. Logistically, I don't know what that looks like yet. We're early in the session, but it's something certainly we're going to look at throughout the session.
The governor said this morning having to verify your ID after you drop off a ballot kind of defeats the whole purpose of voting by mail. You disagree with that?
No, I don't think I disagree with that. But let's look at the process. Let's see what the proposals look like. Again, today's day one, and we've got 45 days to look at proposals. But I think there's broad support for vote by mail. The number that I've seen is around 83%. Voters like it. It's been successful. It's driven up our turnout, and I think that's helpful for our state.
You said there wouldn't be a major overhaul of Utah's elections. Does that include the proposal that we know, and we reported exclusively here on ABC4, that's floating out there, that we would create an executive director of elections, taking power away from the lieutenant governor's office to oversee the state's elections?
We haven't seen that proposal come to the Senate yet. That's something that's working its way through the House. But what I will tell you, when we look at the data that just was reported by the Sutherland Institute, the majority of folks in the state of Utah have a lot of confidence in our election system, and they also have a lot of confidence in having the election run by an elected official. So there's somebody that can account to the public. So I think that's going to be a difficult proposal as it moves forward. If I'm handicapping, I think it's a difficult proposal. I think we want to have an elected official run elections.
And in our final few seconds, what do you want to tackle this legislative session?
Wow.
Is that a tough question?
It's a tough question.
Why? Shouldn't you have that at the forefront of your mind of what you want to get done?
I mean, I'm down in South Utah County. What I face more than anything else with my constituents is growth. How do we manage growth? I mean, for me, we've got a problem with inflation. I'd like to see inflation come down. I'd like to see a tax cut. For me, those are right out in front. And I've got some really significant infrastructure needs in South Utah County. And those are some issues that I'll be focused on this session.
State Senator Mike McKell, also in Senate leadership. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
And my thanks again to State Senator Mike McKell there. Of course, there are a lot of issues being tackled up here on Utah's Capitol Hill as we progress through the 2025 general legislative session.